All right, everybody, what is up? It's a little late to the party because this is going to be the feature match from last week, week 2 of the LBR. But we do have it here nonetheless, and ready to bring you Deach versus DaigurenRise, which was actually the first game of the day that we did last week on Monday. Again, the LBR is usually Mondays and Tuesdays. Going to be 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time over at my channel. Week 3 this week is actually going to be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I believe. And yeah, it's been an awesome season so far. So Deach and DaigurenRise, two behemoths in the game so far. Curious to see who's going to be able to take it. And actually, at the time, the weekend prior, Team Hydra, Deach's team, actually took home between 3 different teammates 3 tournaments over that previous weekend. So Hydra on fire lately. Let's see if they can keep it going versus Team Mafia's DaigurenRise. Hydra, if you guys don't know, just basically won the triple crown, I guess you could call, of Legends of Runeterra over this past weekend. And let me make sure I get this right. I'm pretty sure Deach won Fight Night. Class of Champions was Stan. And we just saw Insolinato take it home in the OLS last night. So 3 for 3 there on the weekend tournaments. Team Hydra's going to be feeling pretty good.
Yeah, I think hat trick is probably the better way to put it. I don't know that I consider those the top 3 turn. I could see the I would say OLS, DOR, and Fight Night, but the Clash of Champions probably, I mean, I don't want to call it a one-time thing, but I don't know when we're going to get the next one. But these players are into the game, and DaigurenRise is actually playing a Giddy Sparkologist in his Invoke deck that he has here in his opening hand.
Yeah, not a card that we see too often out of any of these Invoke decks. I mean, we have definitely seen them floating around a lot, but that is the one kind of Invoke or based card or just card in Targon that we haven't really seen floating around lately. I will say, if you're going more all in on the Zoe strategy, it does feel pretty good.
I guess my problem with something like Giddy Sparkologist is that it's only 1 less mana than Bastion. It does the same thing as Bastion. And I don't know that I am in love with, 1, using unit mana for something like this, and 2, do I really care about that 2/2 body?
I mean, I guess, yeah, you're getting that 2/2 body as a trade for not having a burst speed spell, like you said, comparing it to Bastions there. And I don't know, man, I feel like having a burst speed version of Spell Shield is probably a lot more valuable, so I gotta agree with you there, but we'll see. We'll see if the Giddy Sparkologist is gonna come in handy here. But for now, getting the Zoe strike off again. Always feels really good to get this early Zoe Nexus strike off in the beginning of the game on the side of Daiguren. So we'll see if this super cool Star Chart is going to grab anything cool.
And interestingly enough, not going for a different line here, did decide to push damage by playing the Mountain Goat. The other option would have been to float that 2 mana into this turn, and then now super cool Star Chart and play this Giddy Sparkologist onto the Zoe, protect it from that avalanche, sort of that big tool that is going to constantly be threatening, and now we actually are going to lose the Zoe, which I don't know that Deach would have done if it was just a Zoe sitting on board.
No, I don't think so. As much as it feels good to get rid of a Zoe, I don't think you're going to invest in Avalanche, so that's going to feel like a pretty good trade for Deach, to be honest with you. But we do get the Invoke here. Looks like we're going to go with the Messenger, and yep, we are going to play it as well, start to generate some more draw. And there's another copy of Zoe too, so that might come in big here for Daiguren.
So I played a little bit of ladder today, and I think in all 3 games, I opened 2 Zoes, and my opponent opened 1, and we would both just Zoe turn 1, and then they go in for that trade on the Zoes, and I'm like, okay, here's my second Zoe, and they're like, I don't have one of those. I'm like, why did you take this trade then? The second Zoe is just, I mean, as we can see, there are no more answers for this card in Deach's hand. It's an unfortunate reality of the Targon Freljord decks. It's actually been quite some time since we got to see a Feel the Rush, and I believe this is Asol, right? Yeah. Trundle Asol, not Trundle Tryndamere. Okay, yeah, so been a while since we've seen something like this, but really Avalanche is the only piece of removal that they have. Sometimes they'll play Icequake. It's pretty unlikely. We're not seeing a Sky's Descent main deck here, as they are really not about the Invoke as much as they are about just slamming down some of the largest units that the game has to
Yeah,
offer.
and I gotta say it's gonna be a little bit different casting this deck. I like that you pointed out Aurelion Sol there because it's not often that we do see it. You know, this deck's capability to kind of withstand or withhold the opponent later on in the game with the Celestials generated by Aurelion Sol. It's gonna be a little bit different than the usual. Okay, we play Field of Rush, we get a Trundle Tryndamere, and we're looking to end the game. Now or the next turn, or maybe the turn after that. Now, if Aurelion Sol does stick around versus some of these later game decks, we are going to get a lot of Celestials generated. But right now, this Zoe, that Avalanche being used, Zoe is going to be sticking around for a little while. I would not be surprised if we do end up seeing a leveled up Zoe.
I mean, there is still one piece of interaction on the side of Deach for this. He can play Trundle, and then on the following turn, play a Trundle's Icequake. But we're going to have the Giddy Sparkologist available. We're going to have potentially even just a Moonglow out of the super cool star chart. There are quite a few options for Daiguren to set up protection for the Zoe if that is the line that Deach has to go to try and remove this unit. And there is Zoe number 3
God.
for DaigurenRise.
That feels bad. Oh, boy.
Yeah, and if he wants to, he could protect the Zoe this turn. You can you can actually just play the Sparkologist because you have the Messenger on board.
Yeah, I mean, an Icequake does feel like it would get a lot of work done for Deach, but yeah, like you said, the Sparkologist with that Spell Shield is going to pose a problem, I think, for Deach. I don't see any reason not to play it this turn. I don't know if we really need to drop something like the Solari Sunforger yet. No need for Lifesteal at this point. And it looks like we're going to dig first for the Celestial. We got Serpent, Equinox, and Crescent Strike. Looks like we are going to go with the Equinox.
And that makes sense looking at Deach's deck list. I mean, 2 or 3 copies of the Infinite Mind Splitter? 3 copies of the Infinite Mind Splitter. That's one of those things that's going to get through the Spell Shield and really threaten your larger units like specifically the Great Beyond. You know, just something with a Spell Shield. That's going to get through it. Doesn't really matter. Equinox is a great pickup. And honestly, there's not a lot of great utility cards that you can get out of the super cool star chart in this matchup specifically.
Yeah, I like that you mentioned the 3 Mind Splitters. So this is a deck that I think when the whole Aurelion Sol Trundle ramp archetype came out, this was like one of the first ways that it was built with the Dragon's Clutch. So it's really weird to see this deck just coming back around now after so much time of being absent from the metagame. So I'm curious to see if this deck is going to pose any sort of advantage over some of the other matchups that we've been seeing as of late, like this. I mean, this is one of the stronger decks in Zoe, Diana, or something like Lee Sin if we see that a little bit later. But Falling Comet, I do like that pick out of Daiguren. It's going to allow him to deal with something like this Trundle or, something else big that comes down later, like these 3 Mind Splitters that we were just talking about.
Trying to figure out how... Okay, so there's no way that Daiguren's going to stop the Trundle from leveling. The first thing that Deach does on his turn is probably going to be playing that Ice Pillar, but it's going to hit the Giddy Sparkologist because that is the most expensive unit right now. So that Zoe is going to be safe just a little while longer. And one thing I've been thinking about looking at this list is how important is the Infinite Mind Splitter? Because we've seen some other players going for the Dragon's Clutch or Aurelion Sol, and they play Eclipse Dragon. And I think that, this is a ramp deck, and, technically, Eclipse Dragon does ramp.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, in this particular matchup, I don't think Mind Splitter is going to be that great. You can just overwrite the units at the end of the day, right? And especially this matchup that we're seeing, you can already see we're going wide. We've already filled the board with 6 units on the side of DaigurenRise. So if something like Mind Splitter eventually comes down, it's going to stun 2 things. Those things will eventually get overwritten. You'd be lucky to even get it to stun something large until a Celestial comes down later on in the game. But I do like that Troll Chant. I think that's great. It gets rid of that Spell Shield. It's a lesser use of Troll Chant, but nonetheless a great use. Probably one of the better uses, to be honest, proccing a Spell Shield like that.
I'm trying to figure out... if Deach goes for the pillar first, Daiguren might have an opportunity to level Zoe. But it's hard to say. She's currently sitting at 7 out of 10. We have 2 burst spells in hand, but I do believe we have already played a super cool star chart with this Zoe on field.
Oh, we're going for the Icequake. Yeah.
Just not taking any chances on the side of Deach. Says you need to have 3 burst spells right now, and on 7 mana, that's pretty much got to be a Moon Silver in your hand, but it's not. It's an Equinox. And that means that this Zoe is going to get cleaned up, and we'll see if Zoe number 3 can actually get the level up off.
Yeah, and it feels bad. I think we've already played Super Cool Star Chart, I think, with this Zoe on board, too. So I don't even know if that one would have counted.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is definitely not leveled up. It was close, and I know 7. We were talking about before too, comparing to something like Twisted Fate. Like, where's the danger zone of Zoe leveling up? And it typically is 7, at least in my eyes, anyway. So the fact that we were able to remove it now, I think, is really big for Deach. And not only that, we clear the entire board. We make use of this Trundle. It's going to get regenerated all the way back up. So this feels like a pretty good spot for Deach, but Daiguren still has plenty of tools. We have this Eclipse Dragon. Not sure if we're going to want to play that with the Daybreak effect or not. Fallen Comet feels a little bit bad here, but Deach is out of mana, so there is a lot of options here for Daiguren as far as how he wants to play this turn.
One thing that I think is going to come up really big, I know you had mentioned this Mind Splitter earlier, is just being able to get that down onto, the bigger Celestials, the Scourge, the Immortal Fire, and of course Great Beyond, all that kind of stuff. But it does mean that it's a weird card to try and play proactively. You do want to be able to take advantage of that effect later on. Yes, an 8/8 is cool, but it's not necessarily going to win you the game. But just sitting around, on no cards doesn't feel great either. And it would cleanly float you 3 spell mana into the next turn. And then it's a matter of, on turn 10, what do I want to do? Is it Mind Splitter? Is it a Rallying Soul? Is it Feel the Rush? But actually, yeah, just going to throw out that Falling Comet on the side of Daiguren and say, here's Zoe number 3. Let's see what we can get done with this.
It's going to be a little tilting, I'm not going to lie. But we do have the Pillar, so... the issue with the Pillar is going to be, yeah, sure, Zoe's down now, but Pillar's the strongest unit, and there's going to be a lot of other units that we can get down here, including this Nightfallen Eclipse Dragon. The problem with playing that now, it looks like we are going to go with the Mountain Scryer, I was going to say is, if we do play the Eclipse Dragon now, we just run out all of our mana, and I think that's kind of dangerous, leaving Deach up with 11.
Yeah, I don't know how much this amount of mana matters, but there we do see the Infinite Mind Splitter, and this is what we grabbed the Equinox for earlier.
Yeah, here we go. Equinox takes care of that as well, so not even needing to use a Fallen Comet there. And now Mind Splitter just feels like, not useless. It is an 8/8 body, I guess, but
it is a very large unit.
Just, it doesn't have Overwhelm, and when you're that big of a unit and you don't actually have Overwhelm, it just doesn't feel quite as useful.
Well, it's silenced anyway.
That does mean... Oh, okay, I was going to say the Mind Splitter would have meant Zoe not being able to attack in future turns. Even if that Mind Splitter went off, though, it feels bad having to play it on your opponent's attack turn because it doesn't actually come into effect until the next turn. So that Zoe still would have been able to punch through this turn anyways.
Yeah, it is a very large blocker, and actually I do want to check if Deach is running Hush in this deck. Okay, he is running 2 copies, so... Daiguren saying, you know what, I need a super cool star chart if I'm going to level this Zoe, so even if you have the Hush, it's not something I can really play around at this point. This Zoe's not going to do much for me if I can't get those 2 additional cards out.
Yeah, Deach very much, I think, on the back foot here. We do finally have a turn where we can play Feel the Rush. The question is, do we get it down? And it looks like Deach is opting to do so. It's kind of now or never at this point. We don't really have too many other options in our hand. So... this awesome animation. I gotta say, I do love the KDA animations. Not gonna lie.
I know some people were really hoping that they would change to more thematic animations once the KDA event actually ended.
Oh, like champion based?
But
or...
yeah, sort of just like not pop star dances.
Gotcha. Really?
And just being like, yeah.
I don't know, man. It's an event. That's like, how are you gonna remember the event?
I gotta say, I don't mind it. I don't mind it at all. I do like it a little bit. I think I got tired of the pack your bags dance. I was like, show me the Evelyn clap. I don't need the whole performance beforehand. And honestly, there are some. I don't think I've seen a couple of the dances still. There are a few of those KDA cards I'm not sure I've seen resolved.
Actually, yeah, I don't think I've ever seen Out of the Way played like in a game, or maybe I did on stream once. But here is the Fallen Comet, which feels oh so good on a 10/10 Trundle there. So. But Aurelian's still going to start to pick off some stuff. It is going to get the Fury. I think okay, yeah, no, with the Falling Comet, this Aurelian Soul is not going to level up anymore. That 8/8 sticking around, honestly, the biggest pain in the butt about that is the fact that it does add towards that Aurelian Soul level up. So if we do get something else on board to, add, 7 attack, then that will be a problem for Daiguren. We could just play the other Field of Rush as well. That'll do the job.
Yeah, second Field of Rush is going to be a death sentence for Daiguren. Even this first one going to be incredibly difficult to deal with. One of the problems that we talk about a lot is the lack of removal that Targon has, and while we typically bring that up in the context of Twisted Fate, it's even harder to get through an Aurelion Soul.
All right, gonna reduce the Eclipse Dragon, it looks like. Is that what he selected? I couldn't tell.
No, he selected the Star Shaping so that he could play it this turn and go for lethal on the following turn, and at the moment, this is poised to work out. We only have one Frostbite effect in Deach's hand, and that does not get through the spell shield. So he's either got to get a Celestial that can block out of Aurelion Soul, or top deck another way to pop that spell shield.
Man, yeah, this looks like it is going to be game. Actually, no, the Meteor Shower does it. Okay, yep.
Yeah. Meteor Shower is enough to pop the spell shield, and then we can flash freeze in combat. So Deach is hanging on for the time being, but Daiguren now does also have a way to block the Aurelion Soul if that's a line that he feels like he needs to go for. And I gotta say,
just seeing these Mind Splitters get drawn, and the fact that we mentioned that there is 3 being played in this deck now, it just doesn't seem like it's that great of a card. Like, it's okay, it's definitely good, but we keep getting it where we end up like kind of needing to play it on our opponent's attack turn, and it just doesn't do anything when that happens. Like, it's not stunning anything until the next turn, and that delay, I think, is really coming to play here in this game.
I think I don't like this attack at all. This does not make Deach use whatever tool he had to stop you from winning the game. So now you are once again just 2 turns away from actually winning the game. I really, really did not like that attack from Daiguren. I know that he was probably worried about Hush, which I can respect because you are 1 mana shy of the Pale Cascade. And if this, Aurelion Soul gets to block your Great Beyond, you probably do lose the game. So, like, the more I kind of explain it, the more I understand it. But it just feels so bad knowing what Deach has. But I totally understand the respect for the Hush.
So another Aurelion Soul drawn as well. Let's just hope another one isn't drawn off the top for the second Field of Rush. Okay, so we could go for another Field of Rush this turn, which, I mean, like you said, that's going to be pretty back-breaking for Daiguren, but Skies Descend, are we going to get one of those today? Is this...
I think because Deach still has the Flash Freeze, he can go for Field of Rush here.
Well, we're going to go with the Pillar first. That makes sense. Kind of soft pass back over to the Daiguren. I imagine we might just pass back over, but we'll see. Could also play the Spacey Sketcher to dig for something. Yeah, looks like we are going to opt to go for the Spacey Sketcher. Equinox, Moonsilver, and the Charger. It just seems so underwhelming right now. That Equinox, only on followers, not really going to help with this Aurelion Soul that's on board.
No. I think what Daiguren is really hoping for is nothing. I don't think there's anything that he could draw that he's going to feel good about. Hush, Pale Cascade would get him around the Flash Freeze, but he has already shown a massive amount of respect for the Hush. And if that is the out that you think that Deach has in hand, I don't think there's anything that Daiguren can actually draw to get out of that.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see what Deach decides to do here. I mean, I don't hate just jamming Field of Rush. I feel like, I mean, you're going to get a 10-10 Trundle. You're going to get another Aurelion Soul. That guarantees that your Aurelion Soul is going to level up as well, depending on, obviously, what your opponent has. It looks like we're going to go for the attack, though. And like you said, the Flash Freeze will be able to take care of this Great Beyond. But, oh, wow, okay.
I think he's fine trading Aesol here because this really telegraphs a Field of Rush to me. Especially now when you're down to 3 mana on the side of Daiguren, that has got to be a green light to fire off this second Field of Rush and level your Aurelion Soul.
Yeah. I mean, so either way, we still... did he just play the regular Aurelion Soul?
He's only playing... I mean, he is, rather, playing 3 copies of Aesol, so it's not like there weren't any left in the deck, and if I've tracked the pillars correctly, there should be 1 Aesol and 1 Trundle left in the deck.
I'm almost positive. That's why I made that comment about him drawing one. So I don't see why we wouldn't spend 2 more mana to just get 2 cards.
The only thing I could think of would be he wants an elusive in case Daiguren got another Great Beyond off of the Eclipse Dragon. He needs a blocker, and playing the Aurelion Soul is your best bet at actually finding that, because if you just Field of Rush it out, you're not going to get one on play, and then the randomly generated one could be anything. You have a much better chance of finding an elusive if you just play the Aesol.
Well, we do have a Celestial that is elusive in the Great Beyond in hand. So I guess success if that is what Deach was trying to do here. And honestly, with that Great Beyond being drawn as well, and we see that Daiguren doesn't have any elusives in hand, I am hard-pressed to see how Daiguren starts to come back in this now. We have a Hush to deal with something like the Spell Shield and Aurelion Soul. That really doesn't do a whole lot because we actually still can't kill the Aurelion Soul this turn.
And Deach still has Field of Rush mana. We can get that last Aesol, last Trundle as well.
And last time I checked, 38 is enough to level Aurelion Soul, even post-nerf.
It's a little bit more than 25, yeah.
Wow, so...
And I feel like, I think there have been a couple cards where we talk about where it feels like that nerf was perfect. It was right on the money in what we wanted to do, and Aurelion Soul was definitely one of them.
Oh my god, yeah, that, honestly, no qualms with that nerf whatsoever. 20 felt so easy. 25 feels still decently okay, like it's possible.
It feels doable, and since Aurelion Soul 9 times out of 10 ends the game when he levels, I do want it to be a little bit harder than just play Field of Rush.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually a good point in chat as well. Field of Rush does pull it from hand, too. I usually forget about that effect with this card, that it pulls from hand in deck. I always assume, like, okay, if all the champions are out of the deck, Field of Rush won't work, but that's actually not the case, so good catch on that one. So Daiguren, thinking through the options here, honestly... Not a whole lot of good ones. I mean, you kind of have to play Fuse Firebrand just to get some additional blockers out there, possibly. You could pass back over, but you have the attack token. That does feel really bad on the side of Daiguren. Yep, and we're going to get a Traveler. At this point, we don't even need these extra resources. This is overkill at this point.
I am pretty surprised that Daiguren is willing to go for the pass and not just kill this pillar.
Yeah, you would be able to grab it with the Eclipse Dragon.
Or if you want to, Pale Cascade and Lifesteal with this Sunforger.
Just to get the additional heal on your Nexus, just to survive, as long as you possibly can.
Yeah, and there's no reason not to kill the pillar. Especially because you do have a free way to kill it with this Eclipse Dragon, which then on the next turn you could Pale Cascade to actually contest the Aurelion Soul. But we do have to keep in mind that Daiguren does still have a read that Deach has Hush in hand.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we don't know that for a fact.
I can't imagine another reason to attack the pillar with the Great Beyond unless you are specifically scared of Hush.
Oh, you're back when the Great Beyond attacked. I get what you're saying. Okay, yep.
Yeah.
Well, there is a Hush in Daiguren's hand, so that's something that Deach will have to worry about. But again, I don't know if that's really going to be enough to get it done. Looks like we are going to go for the Eclipse Dragon onto the pillar. And, I mean, let's assume that Pale Cascade, after Fury buffs the Eclipse Dragon to 8, we Pale Cascade block the Aurelion Soul. We still get blown out by Flash Freeze, if we really wanted to use it at that point on the side of Deach. And on top of that, Deach does have Great Beyond, which could just finish the game. Which actually, what are we at now for Celestials that have been played? 2. So this is a 10 Great Beyond.
Okay, which we can get to 12 if we go Messenger Living Legends Great Beyond.
Messenger. Yeah, and we can still actually play it in the same turn, so... Oh, there's the Pale Cascade.
Yeah, Daiguren is...
Desperate? That's the...
It's a little bit beyond desperate. Daiguren has accepted a loss because he's at a point where he's not really thinking about his plays before he makes them. Otherwise, I'm sure that we would have pushed a little bit more damage onto the Aurelion Soul with that Pale Cascade. It was more so a post-combat evaluation of what does everything look like. Okay, I guess I need to cycle. And since nothing changed from, being in combat to post-combat, there was no reason not to play that card in combat.
It's 100% pushing that more damage, which actually now we can even see, too. The Fuse Firebrand would have been able to trade with that Pale Cascade onto the Aurelion Soul, so I got to agree. The post-combat Pale Cascade, a little bit questionable. Like you said, I think Daiguren kind of knowing that the end is near, and as you mentioned earlier, the end is usually near when an Aurelion Soul is leveled and is on the board. So we were worried about playing Living Legends and all these shenanigans just to get this Great Beyond up to 12. Well, I think we'll be able to get it up to 12, no problem.
Yep, there is going to be an absolute field day on the side of Deach. I mean, it always feels good when you've got that Ace Soul. Maybe if he has any quests, he could even get those done right now. If you need to like play a certain amount of dragons or something, just throw out every 0 mana card in your hand. If Daiguren wants to surrender, he can surrender. And soon he's going to understand that this is not a winnable
You need
game.
those that currency. What do they call that currency for the prismatic cards now? Is it gemstone? I wanted to say gems, but I feel like that's wrong, so it must be gemstones. Yeah, gonna get those gemstones at the end of these competitive matches, just in case. You can sneak those in.
Yeah.
Maximizing the efficiency of your gameplay. That's a true professional player right there of card games. And we're gonna get star shaping to get a cosmic inspiration. Kind of
Yeah.
get
Have
that.
you ever been playing a physical card game and you have an ability where you search your deck for a card and you pass the proper card, but there's a higher rarity version of your deck, so you keep going to search for the max rarity version?
I'm not gonna lie, I played Dark World a lot with Yu-Gi-Oh, and I had the entire deck as ultimate rare. Yeah, and when there was like, I think I was missing like a few cards at one point, and when I drew those cards that were missing, I would totally wait till I got the ultimate rare version. 100%. Yeah.
That's kind of what Deach was doing there at the end of the game, was just like, let me find the shiniest version. Let me find the coolest way to do this.
All right, so Deach gonna go up 1-0 there. Pretty solid win too. I mean, that was convincing, to say the least, versus Daiguren. We'll see how the second match goes. And it's funny too because Zoe Diana, we did not see a whole lot of the entire tournament for the OLS. I mean, we did see it, but wasn't as prominent as we thought it would be. We're seeing it here to start things off. We're actually seeing 2 Invoke decks to start things off. And Invoke, in general, over the entire weekend, was just didn't show up nearly as much as we thought.
No, and I do want to mention Deach is actually on a triple Targon lineup, and a very heavy triple Targon lineup. We saw the Trundle Aesol, that deck picked up a win. Now he's on the Diana Leona Invoke, which means that it was his Zoe Lee Sin that was banned.
Well, people still fearing that Zoe Lee Sin one-turn combo. And Diana to start off with Deach. Also the Solari Priestess. So we should be able to at least, if we bank this spell mana going into turn 3, we can play the Priestess here to get that Daybreak effect, start generating those Celestials. But in the meantime, Daiguren with the Dream, the Zoe on turn 1. Gonna get that nice Nexus damage in, that Nexus Strike, get that super cool star chart. And we'll start this Invoke train.
Yeah, this is just the same opener that Daiguren had last game, but this time not going to be able to push 4 damage, is just going to get blocked out by that Solari Shield Bearer. So there is a reason that you run Zoe instead of Leona. Like, this is the more optimal build on the side of Daiguren, but Deach committed his Zoe elsewhere, and this is still a very solid deck. This is kind of a couple iterations past. It started off as, Diana Leona, then it moved on to Diana Aurelian Soul, and finally to Diana Zoe. So we're kind of a few months in the past here on the side of Deach, but I mean, the cards are still extremely powerful. The Leona Ravoon combo doesn't do a whole lot in this matchup. I think that, the Leona's Morning Light with Ravoon out is still kind of comparable to Moonlight Affliction. But even that is a card that we saw players experiment with for a little bit and now seems to have fallen back out of favor.
I really like that comparison, Ravoon and Leona with Moonlight Affliction. And yeah, I mean, we saw it pop up for a little bit, but now it's gone again. I just don't think Leona Ravoon is, and I've said it since Leona kind of came out, it just doesn't have quite enough oomph sometimes to just really punch it in for the win. I mean, don't get me wrong. Morning Light plus Ravoon plus Leona, I mean, you can get some pretty crazy kills with that, or some crazy turns with lots of stuns, but people starting to gravitate away from Leona a little bit. And
yeah, the big difference maker specifically in this matchup is that because Deach isn't running Zoe, isn't running Aurelion Soul, doesn't have a champion that can invoke, he's not running any copies of the Sky's Descent.
And we've talked so many times about how that is a difference maker in kind of mirror matches, any sort of invoke mirror match where we're going to end up having wide boards later on in the game. Which every single invoke deck, I feel at this point, like early on, they just have a lot of they fill a wide board with very dinky smaller units, like we see here, right? And then as the game progresses, you're going to get those larger units on board, but a lot of those smaller units are going to stick around for a while unless unless people actually want to trade, which I feel like generally we don't see trading until later on in the game as far as the board is concerned.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of we're both just going to build up 6-unit boards. And then I feel like when Leona was the champion to play in these Evoke decks, we constantly saw those board states negated by either a Leona's Morning Light or one player just getting to a Cosmic Inspiration or even a Cosmic Raise before the other one did, and really breaking that stalemate. Here, the stalemate is going to be, I believe, broken by fighting over the Zoe.
Yeah. And that usually does break stalemates. I'm not going to lie. Zoe is something that needs to usually leave the board as quickly as possible, like we've mentioned before. But Equinox, Moonglow, and Cosmic Rays, that is a very different selection of cards, but it looks like we are going to go with the Equinox. Would you say Equinox is the most common smaller Celestial that's picked? I feel like we're always seeing that picked.
I'm not sure if it's that or the Serpent, actually. I think Serpent, Moonsilver, and Equinox are like all taken pretty equally.
I feel like Equinox just has a lot more blowout uses, you know, things like Leviathan, larger followers.
Yeah, it's definitely matchup dependent, though. In a matchup like this, you're generally either going to be popping a Spell Shield with it or just throwing it at your opponent's Mountain Scryer.
Well, speaking of Mountain Scryers, we got one on the board, so we could technically play this Golden Sisters on turn 5, which, I mean, it feels nice for a couple reasons. You know, you obviously do develop a larger board here, but you also develop an elusive blocker for the Zoe. Because right now I don't really see another way that we're dealing with it. We have the Hush next time it attacks.
Well, we have the Diana. The problem is that our only options to play Diana this turn are either Hush or Equinox.
Actually, Diana would be the best way, yeah. And it looks like we are going to go with the Equinox. So I like this a lot. This Diana going to be able to pick off the Zoe. It's so interesting to me how Diana is a champion, and her one use is literally like a 2-mana deal 2 damage. It's basically like a Mystic Shot that just ends you with a 2/2 unit on board afterwards, and it's just interesting that she's a champion.
And now, I mean, Daiguren can take care of this. We can Hush the Diana. We can Crescent Strike the Diana. We've really got kind of our pick of the litter here, and we should know that our Zoe's going to be safe. It's more a question of, are we going to feel safe enough to attack with Zoe from this point forward? Are we going to respect the Hush, or do we think that we are now at 6 out of 10 close enough to the Zoe level up that we don't need to go for that super cool star chart into another card? Since we've already played Crescent Strike, we've already got Equinox, the chances of getting, and yeah, we're actually just going to stun this as well. Or silence it, rather, but pulling it back for a second there.
So Deach, in this deck, Deach must be playing 3 Hush, right? Or is he still only playing 2?
No, he's playing 3. It's pretty common to play 3 Hush in these Invoke
exactly.
decks.
And that's, so to answer your question with Zoe, I mean, I don't think you can really ever attack at this point. I mean, both players have plenty of units. Both players have plenty of mana. At this point, plenty of cards in hand as well. One of them is bound to be Hush by now. And especially that Zoe being at 7 out of 10 now, yeah, no reason to attack with her. Let's get the level up. Let's get these sweet keywords onto all of our units, and wow, okay, we are actually just gonna go for it. Oh wait,
that's surprising to me because I think Daiguren could have leveled Zoe this turn.
Yeah, and that's okay. I was just gonna say, can we level her anyways? But yeah, you can't respond to Hush with anything, and because of that, Daiguren just gonna completely throw this leveled Zoe opportunity out the window.
Oh nope, it doesn't. I mean, we have the double Pale Cascade. But, I mean, it is very risky to go for this when your opponent is not only playing 3 copies of Pale Cascade themselves, but also has a Diana on board, which, you know, acts as another copy of Pale Cascade. We do have the Hush to play around that, so I guess that's what Daiguren was going for, just baiting the Hush out of Deach. But I still feel like it would have been better to level the Zoe first, and then you're not even worried about a Hush. Yeah, you can go ahead and kill my Zoe. The job is done.
That does still feel really risky, I'm not going to lie.
It had a chance to not work out, but it does work out.
Hey, that's all that matters, right? As long as this Zoe sticks around, we don't question it.
you can definitely criticize the journey. It's kind of like if you're trying to give your friend directions and you're like, yeah, you just go in a straight line for 15 miles and it should take you about 15 minutes to get here, and they show up 45 minutes later and they're like, yeah, I got a little lost, and it's like, well, you could have just
scenic route. There we go. Zoe just took the scenic route to this level up. And actually, I think with this Pale now that we're playing it with Zoe non-Hush, we're at 9 out of 10. So I think it's a foregone conclusion that Zoe's going to level up. Now it's going to be a matter of using her level up effect to see if we can actually take control of this game back.
I mean, with Diana in hand, and I know we don't talk about this one a lot, but Diana with a leveled Zoe is absolutely insane. Giving your entire board quick attack and challenger is phenomenal. You no longer have to worry about elusives.
Yeah. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. There's a reason why quick attack and challenger is only on just a few cards in this game right now. Not really much of a board to give stuff to as it currently stands, though. We're going to lose most of our board here. Well, half of it, to be exact. So, the Spacey Sketcher. And actually, the Silver Sister even going to live as well. We do have a little bit of redevelopment in the Sunforger, but not sure if we actually want to play it this turn. Really no need to for that lifesteal. And we're going to get the Hush.
Oh, this is... I would imagine...
Wait, did he... He forgot the bug. He forgot the bug.
Not only did he forget the... I mean, I wouldn't blame him for not knowing about the bug. But it's also just that Hush is a card that you've already played. It doesn't level your Zoe. And I didn't think it was like that important to kill this now that we had the Diana. Bad. So we're going to Spacey Sketcher to actually discard the Sunforger, which means that Lifesteal no longer an option, but that, once again, not going to level the Zoe. We do have the Trickster, though. That will
So for anybody watching, the bug that we just witnessed is essentially when you play one Hush, it silences the unit. The second Hush, for some reason, decides to recognize that the unit's already silenced. It won't allow it to be re-silenced, so any buffs that are put on after the first Hush actually will still stick around in it. Feels kind of bad to just toss a Hush out the window, because Hush is an impactful card too. It's not like we just tossed a tool out the window. That's a tool. That's a hell of a tool. That's a really good card.
I would imagine though that Daiguren is still going to be fine.
Well, I mean, you have a leveled Zoe.
Just because, we have the leveled Zoe. We have the Star Shaping, which is going to be able to get us a really impactful card. We also are looking at the hand of Deach. Absolutely no interaction. We are going to get a 0-mana Behold the Infinite.
Remember, Boulevard, it's only for the turn. Just throwing that out there, just in case you forgot.
It's only for the turn.
All right, Eclipse Dragon probably gonna get met for. Were you like what the hell is he talking about? Yeah, the Behold the Infinite.
I was like, is it a fleeting Celestial? No. Have I screwed this up? But so this is actually really nice trades for Daiguren as well. You can actually. You can kill both the sisters, and now that this dragon has been played, you have Fury on these as well. So you're going to have a 4/4 Diana and a 2/2 Spacey Sketcher. And the Zoe still going to get in for free, and you can just go in with this Eclipse Dragon as well. Or we could play this Trickster, which I think is what Daiguren was setting up for, and just attack full-on with all elusives, Atrocity, end the game on the next turn.
The fact that we can actually Fury this Spacey Sketcher by pulling a unit is nuts. I
1-mana 1/1 with Challenger, Fury, Quick Attack. Those are a little intimidating.
Suddenly a 1-mana card actually gonna do something pretty impactful here. I mean, do you grab a Living Legends here just to kind of see? Yeah, just to see what we can get, because I think Deach is kind of, he sees his own blood in the water. It's not looking too well. Okay, now that means.
Is that a metaphor?
Yeah.
Sees his own blood in the water.
Well, I kind of mixed it up a little bit. You ever heard somebody say like somebody sees blood in the water? It's like a shark. You know, you see blood in the water.
Yeah, I know. Like smells blood in the water is like you know
whatever sense you want to put there. Here.
I'm trying to figure out the connotation between like a shark smelling blood in the water and going in for the kill, and someone just seeing their own blood in the water and being like, "Man, that's weird." Where's that coming from?
I don't know. In my leaking. I don't know. In my head, it was because you're in the water with the shark, but it made sense to me, Boulevard. Okay, that's what matters.
That's fair. That's chat. Did it make sense to you? Because that's what really matters.
Yep, that's gonna be a lot of damage coming through. Everything elusive as well. Free Behold the Infinite. Atrocity actually can already end the game just with this Eclipse Dragon that's on the field. So.
Yeah, is going to have to be cognizant of the potential for a Star Shaping, though, and maybe going to hold off on that until we see Deach go below 5 mana, which I think Deach is going to have to do to try and have a chance at surviving through this board on the next turn.
Moonsilver here, right? I feel like Moonsilver on Atrocity is always such a good, like, cheeky play because your opponent won't know that it's 5 mana.
I could see an argument for Equinox, just so that if your opponent does play an elusive, like, you can probably win this game without ever playing the Atrocity. Are we just going to throw this on the Mountain Scryer?
On the Ravoon? Yeah, no, Mountain Scryer. Okay, yeah. Okay, so just valuing that cost reduction a little bit, which, I mean, I guess that's kind of really Deach's only way out, is drawing into some larger Celestials, some Celestial cards, if that's the case. And maybe this is a read that he does have Living Legends, because having Mountain Scryer on board with Living Legends is a pretty big deal.
Yeah, not only that, but on this amount of mana specifically, on 12 mana, if Deach opened the turn with a second Mountain Scryer, two Mountain Scryers and Living Legends is really tough to come back from, and he would have had exactly enough mana to play it.
So I think that's just an example of Daiguren saying, all right, I know how I lose, so let's just not have that happen. Otherwise, we're not really losing to anything else here.
Yeah, and I don't think Deach can, keep up star shaping mana this turn. Doesn't even have it in hand. This should be the end of the game for DaigurenRise, which would mean we would get a game 3. And I want to touch on Daiguren's last 2 decks here, because we could get Go Hard, and I think it is pretty likely that we get Go Hard since Deach brought up the other Rush deck, but the other deck is Zombie Ash.
Ooh, okay.
And I'm pretty sure this Zombie Ash got banned, but man, do I wish it didn't.
I really hope it didn't either. I think did Nola say he brought it to the Clash of Champions? He did. He did well or not well?
You can take a guess on that. I don't know for sure, but I do have a guess.
My guess is not well. I know he didn't win, so there's that.
Yep.
All right, Warrior coming down. I mean, Deach doing his damnedest to try to stay in this, but unfortunately, none of those blockers mean anything against a fully elusive field here. And there's the Atrocity now that he's tapped out. That is going to go ahead and end the game.
So I've been going on some nostalgia trips lately, just going through like some old footage and stuff. And I went back to probably the first like meta review that I ever did. And one of the first things that I brought up was that Atrocity was a problem and was going to continue to be a problem for the duration of its lifespan in the game. And here we are now. One of the best decks in the game is Invoke with just a splash of Atrocity.
Well, and think about how many decks in the last, year, let's say, that have splashed Atrocity that probably shouldn't have, or maybe not. I guess you can't say they shouldn't have, but it just doesn't really.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think those decks should have that win condition on top of it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So.
Yeah, it definitely feels like Invoke is peak degeneracy of Atrocity, because it is a mono Targon deck that said, hey, we can play any other singular card in the game. Atrocity is the best one.
Hey, look, we have a deep deck, Boulevard. I tried.
Me and Deach earlier were actually roasting everybody on Twitter earlier who plays Scouts and complimenting everybody who played Deep.
Yeah, if you who hit Masters?
Yeah, anybody that hit Scouts with Masters, or hit Masters with Scouts, we were just like, good afternoon to everybody except that guy.
Masters with Deep, I will tip of the cap to you, good sir.
I ran into a problem where someone had hit Masters with Deep, but they had also hit Masters with Scouts 3 times. And it's like, do we respect you for that one, or what are we doing? And Deach gave the final ruling of no. Every time that you hit Masters with Scouts, you disown Deep, and you've done that 3 times.
Deep than the Scouts. But nope, no Deep here. This is in fact TF Go Hard, which I saw some stats come out. I think it was Cosmic on Twitter as well that had released some stuff where the play rate of TF Go Hard does seem to be going down substantially right now, but the win rate is holding strong, if not improving. So I do find that interesting as far as TF Go Hard is concerned. And I do that's partly because, people are now teching less against it because they're assuming it's going to be played less, and now the people that are playing it obviously have a little bit of an easier time playing the deck.
Yeah, it's one of those things where everybody thinks, okay, TF Go Hard's dead, now I can play the decks that it was holding back in the meta, and then you queue up on ladder, and you immediately run into TF Go Hard, and you're like, I hate this guy.
I hate that. That's probably one of I hate that the most about ladder. You're going up against this same deck all the time that like you're tired of losing to, so you're like, all right, I'm gonna play the deck that beats it, and then you queue up on ladder, and then you instantly queue up into the deck that's the worst matchup for you, the deck that you just switched to. I hate that. Feels bad, man.
Yeah.
All right, so off to a pretty good start both players have decent starts right now. Daiguren has the Glimpse Beyond to continue to cycle as well. But we are going to start the Invoke process for Deach. Fallen Comet, Golden Sister, and Traveler. Traveler seems okay here. You can start to develop some more units, especially as a blocker as well, to what will probably eventually be a wide board of Daiguren. And Golden Sister, I think, does the same thing. You get those two sisters out there on the board.
As someone who has played a lot of Invoke versus Go Hard, I generally like to take Golden Sister in those situations. That life point swing is a really big deal because I'm generally not going to keep up on board with Go Hard in the early game. They are going to get a little bit wider than me. They are going to push through somewhere between 4 and 8 points of damage, and having that elusive blocker for the Zap Spray Fin as well as that life steal just feels better than just about anything else I can pull out of that Solari Priestess pool.
All right. Well, here the attacks come. We can trade at least the bear, shield bearer there. Not sure if we really want to make the bad trade of the Solari Priestess onto the Dreadway deckhand. We do have Pale Cascade, but it's not Nightfall activated, so yeah, we're just going to make the one trade right now. And now we get a Daybreak effect, and that means Ravoon's coming down. Oh, feels bad to get a Solari Soldier, though. Or does it? I mean, Solari Soldier's actually not too bad.
Yeah, in this matchup, it does help you fight for board a little bit. I mean, it feels not ideal to be playing Leona in the first place. So like you don't even want to have Ravoon in your deck at this point, but I guess when you do, I mean Eclipse Dragon probably would have been the best hit. Zenith Blade actually wouldn't be too bad either.
Honestly, Zenith Blade probably would have been pretty good. That's going to put most of your units at least 4 health, so even this Priestess.
Yeah, here comes the disaster turn for Deach, though. Do you know what the Golden Sister lines up beautifully into?
What Boulevard?
The box.
Yeah, the box is actually... So, I don't have the deck list up. Is he only teching 1 copy, or is it multiple?
Let me check for you. It is one copy.
Who was it that we saw in the OLS that was also playing multiple boxes? I just feel like I'm seeing this card pop up more often, and I mean, I can't sit there and say it's because of Celestials. Like, it's really just Golden Sisters that it does work against, but it does also pop Spell Shields. So, I mean, it's something else that might come into play. But yeah, that is... Whew.
I can't even remember what deck we saw that was playing 3 copies of the box. I don't think it was Go Hard, was it?
No.
But I don't remember what it was.
Oh, it might have been maybe Field of Rush.
I think what it is right now, though, with the box is we've seen a pretty decent uptick in mist rates.
Yep.
And the box does... It actually is the one thing that you can do to just negate a heroine.
It's a deny. It's basically a deny, a little bit different.
And one of the things that Go Hard does so well, and this was exemplified by 1 mana Pack Your Bags, is we talk a lot about how, I'm playing War Mother's Call, you're playing a deck with Deny, and because you're playing an Ionia deck, yes, you get an 8 mana swing by denying my card, but a lot of the time, Ionia decks weren't doing a whole lot with that 8 mana swing that they got. If I box your Harrowing, this is a deck that can do a lot with that additional 5 mana.
Oh, another soldier hitting the field. And, I mean, I got to say, Deach, one of the things that TF Go Hard wants to do is go really wide. It wants to try to poke some damage with these, multiple smaller units like the Jagged Butchers, the Elises, Doom Beast, so many different options. But Deach's deck can go just as wide, if not wider. I mean, we just talked about it last game where these Invoke decks almost always are filling up a board with 6 units. And even if the board gets wiped, well, guess what? We're filling it back up with 6 units. But here's the box you were just talking about. Is going to get rid of both of those.
Yeah, Deach playing beautifully around that box, not putting down the Mountain Scryer. Now going to be safe to do that. I was kind of curious if we were going to Pale Cascade to save one of these units to push through an additional 5 damage, but I do agree that it doesn't necessarily feel worth it because you are actually going to run into a lot of situations where all it takes is 1 Pale Cascade to save a unit from a Pack Your Bags.
Yeah, I feel like you get a lot more value out of that Pale Cascade a little bit later in the game.
Yeah, you did. Like, those Solari Soldiers were just there to try and get the 1 box out of your opponent, and now the way is paved for the Golden Sisters.
And a Solari Soldier in general, right? It's not something that you really want to save regardless.
Yeah, one of those was randomly generated
Solari,
anyway.
And like you said, so the Golden Sisters, that's super important that we were able to get that box out of Daiguren's hand without having put down those sisters. Not only did we not play the Mountain Scryer, like you mentioned, which I thought was pretty heads up, we also didn't commit the Golden Sisters that turn, which, I mean, we didn't have the mana to do both, but that means future turns, we're good to go, especially if there's only one box, like you mentioned, in the deck of Daiguren. So this is looking pretty good for Deach, but 5 damage incoming. Plenty of heal, though. We got Star Shaping. We're not worried. We're not worried. Oh, then...
Yep. And the Immortal Fire going to come down so much sooner than this Commander Ladros that Daiguren has. We're still, a ways away from actually getting that down. Looks like we can kill the Mountain Scryer here with this Go Hard, but the damage has been done. The Immortal Fire is on board, and if we really want to, maybe this is where we use the Pale Cascade.
It feels a lot better saving a Mountain Scryer. That's a lot better value. You keep the reduction, cost reduction onto this Golden Sister, but we'll see if Deach agrees. Pale Cascade in general, I think, is just one of the most versatile cards in the game. So you really want to try to maximize the amount of value you're getting off it, because more importantly too, your opponent does have to respect Pale Cascade and play around them in certain spots. So that completely changes how your opponent's going to play on any given turn, and that's definitely it's a big deal throughout the course of the game.
I gotta say though, it feels like Deach gonna be able to take this one away. I mean, Daiguren hasn't found some of the more pivotal cards in just sort of keeping up in card advantage. We haven't found any Zap Spray Fins. We haven't found any Twisted Fates. And I know that a lot of times against Invoke decks, against these mono Targon Mountain Scryer decks, we talk a lot about the Twisted Fate win condition because there's really not a lot of removal. It can take a Diana, which is still susceptible to a couple of pieces of removal that Daiguren could have, but now instead loading up on Commander Ladros, not even a Ruination in sight, sort of the 9-mana card that you wouldn't mind seeing against this matchup. But even now, like it feels like Ruination wouldn't help you too much. Yes, it would clear out a lot, but it's not going to deal with that Immortal
Ruination
Fire.
seems to be the key card in a lot of matchups for TF Go Hard now, at least from the matchups that we're seeing as of late. But as you mentioned, though, this Immortal Fire, man, coming down this early, I think it's just going to be too much pressure for Daiguren to deal with. The fact that we're able to put on 10 damage here, putting Daiguren to 7, is pretty insane this early in the game. If Daiguren decides to commit 9 mana to something like Ladros next turn, that's an entire turn's worth of mana, with the exception of spell mana, of course. But we really don't have any follow-up plays besides that, and then we just attack again with the elusives on the following attack turn, and we win.
Okay, here's the question. Do you Pale Cascade one of your elusives? Because at the moment, you're going to put Daiguren at 7. So if you Pale Cascade, that does set you up for Atrocity. You could always just Atrocity a little bit later. Like, you could wait until you have the Atrocity to do the Pale Cascade. But this does get you that additional draw to try and look for that combo a little bit earlier. And Daiguren doesn't have a lot of healing left. He only plays 1 copy of Withering Wail, and that was actually discarded by a Pool Shark a little bit earlier on.
Well, looks like Deach is going to go ahead and go with the Pale Cascade, and so this actually means that Daiguren does now have to respect the Atrocity as well, being at 5. There's 2 units that we can go ahead and target here for the Atrocity. Not to mention, Immortal Fire with Atrocity is a nice little combo. If you do kill the Immortal Fire, it pops right back up, and the Atrocity is still going to go face.
Daiguren is in a decent spot here still, though. That is the 3rd Go Hard in hand. So as long as Daiguren remembers to play the Zap Spray Fin before turning this Go Hard into Pack Your Bags, Deach could get turned on a little bit here, but I don't think it's necessarily game-losing scenarios here for Deach, who still has not found the Atrocity. Triple Hush, not the most impactful cards in a matchup like this.
All right, so that Zap Spray Fin actually means that Ruination cannot be played, and we're still staring down lethal with the elusive attackers.
Yeah, I think that Daiguren was really hoping for a Go Hard to get that Pack Your Bags off.
I think what he was hoping for was that Zap Spray Fin actually added a spell mana to make it 4. But it just didn't work out for him. I think, depending on the draw of Daiguren, if we get something like a Vengeance, I think this is all going to about wrap it up. I mean, Glimpse Beyond can also cycle. So Daiguren does have a few more shots to draw some answers. But it's going to be tough.
Yeah, we might even just see the Glimpse pre-combat, see if we can get that pack.
Oh, I no doubt we just see a Glimpse Beyond. I think it just happens. I mean, maybe you attack with everything first. I don't see why not. I mean, you push more damage that way, but... And I don't...
I mean, you push more damage if you find pack and then go to combat.
Okay. If you find pack, though, right? So...
Yeah, but I don't think you're winning unless you find pack here.
Yeah, you might be right. And we actually have another unit we can play
no
too.
pack.
So
Yeah. No pack, though, and since it's not, 1 mana anymore, we can't hope for a blue card into it. We can't hope for the Betty Croker into it. I imagine that Daiguren is going to be really just shut out of this one, as we do have triple Hush in Deach's hand, so going to be able to take that elusive off the board, and no answer drawn for Daiguren, who actually didn't even commit anything else to the board and dig a little bit deeper.
Really smart from Deach, I think, to get this Immortal Fire online as early as he did. Basically just playing it the very first turn it could come down, and because of that, just consistent pressure with both of these elusive units, and Deach gonna go ahead and take the big victory here for Team Hydra versus Mafia in the very first game of the day. All right, so Deach gonna keep that train rolling for Team Hydra. Team Mafia, no slouches though. They were actually the winners of LRA last season, so both teams right now definitely have a good shot at taking home the LBR this season, so curious to see who that's going to be that's able to win it. But as always, everybody, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Stay healthy, stay positive. I hope shit just works for you, and peace out.